Hi, and welcome to Teaching Tip Tuesday, brought to you by the Center for Inclusive Teaching and Learning at UWSP. Teaching is no easy feat. Beyond the meticulous planning that goes into lessons and engaging learning activities, there's a mountain of grading and the unpredictable element of students' responses. Whether individually or as a group, students' perceptions of challenges can lead to unfavorable memories, impacting their motivation to study and creating a shadow on their future learning experiences. But it doesn't have to end this way. Thanks to insights provided by the peak end rule, we know that the way experiences conclude significantly shapes our memories of them. By focusing on how assignments and courses end, we can transform how students remember even the most challenging assignments and courses. This week, let's delve into the importance of ending well. We'll explore strategies to ensure that your students experience a soft landing in the most challenging assignments, leaving them with a positive impression and a renewed enthusiasm for learning. Let's begin with the peak end rule. The basic idea is that how we remember the pleasurable quality of an experience is primarily determined by what the experience felt like at its peak and what it felt like at the end. This has been demonstrated in a variety of contexts, including learning contexts, and it yields some really surprising and counterintuitive results. Imagine two scenarios. In one, you put your hand in really cold water for 60 seconds. In the other, you do the same for 90 seconds, but during the last 30 seconds, the temperature warms just a degree. If I asked you which of these you'd rather do a second time, you'd probably say the 60-second treatment. But in a carefully controlled study, subjects disproportionately said they would rather repeat the longer exposure to cold. Why? Because their memory of the awfulness of the two experiences was different. Although they rated the peak of discomfort for the two treatments similarly, the change in how the treatments ended affected the way the subjects remembered them. They remembered the longer exposure as less unpleasant. How far does this peak end rule extend? Pretty far. Du and colleagues showed that children exposed to two different conditions, one in which they were given a Hershey bar, and another in which they were given a Hershey bar followed by a piece of bubble gum, the children recalled the Hershey bar alone as being a more pleasurable experience, even though, logically, one might expect the children to prefer getting the same Hershey bar plus a piece of gum. But gum is not as good as chocolate, and the gum chaser reduced the overall memory of the pleasure of the chocolate bar. Adults responded similarly when exposed to entertainment treats, remembering a very pleasurable DVD as more pleasurable than a very pleasurable DVD followed by a less pleasurable DVD. In a study more related to learning, Kahneman and colleagues showed that students remembered effortful learning tasks differently depending on how the tasks ended. When exposed to a short list of 30 very difficult Spanish-English word pairs and an extended list with difficult word pairs followed by 15 word pairs that were only moderately difficult, students expressed a preference for studying the longer list. This framework was repeated by Hogerheide and Paas with middle school children, placing a greater focus on the cognitive load entailed in learning. Children were exposed to 30 difficult Dutch-English word pairs in one trial, and 30 very difficult word pairs followed by 21 moderately difficult word pairs in another. Real-time ratings of how pleasurable the learning was to students were collected from the children after every third word pair. These ratings showed no differences for the difficult word pairs in the short and the extended lists. But pleasure ratings increased in the extended list when the moderately difficult pairs were reached. Retrospectively, students tended to remember the longer list as easier and more pleasurable to learn. The majority of students expressed a preference for studying the extended list and identified it as less tough to cope with than the shorter list. A third of participants believed that the extended list was actually the shorter of the two lists. Test performance on word recall of the difficult pairs was not different between the short and extended lists, so learning wasn't different, even though the perception of the students was. Hogerheide and Paas also did a reversal, beginning with a pleasant, low cognitive load learning task. They gave students a short list of easy word pairs and an extended list of easy pairs followed by the same moderately difficult word pairs that they'd used in the previous trial. Real-time pleasure in learning the easy pairs wasn't much different between the two lists, and it was higher than it had been in the other experiment. Pleasure in learning decreased when they reached the moderate pairs, but the pleasure rating for moderate pairs was similar to the pleasure rating that had been shown when the students were coping with a more difficult list. In this comparison, children expressed a restudy preference for the short list and recalled the short list as easier to learn, less tough to cope with, and shorter than the extended list. So, starting easy, ending difficult was perceived as more difficult to them than just having easy. The peak-end rule explains all of these results. Ending softly with easier material improved the memory of learning, and ending hard with difficult material reduced the pleasurability of the memory of learning. What does this mean to us? It has implications for the scaffolding of our assignments. When we scaffold problem sets and assignments, we usually begin with simple problems, then build to more complex problems. This is great for learning. We know that it works. But the challenge of the last questions may leave students with the memory of an assignment being more difficult than it actually was. This isn't what we'd like to happen. We want to keep our students positively motivated to study and review what they've done. We want to end student interaction with a learning task on a pleasurable note. Here are some ideas. For assignments or exams, consider tossing in a couple of softball questions at the end so students leave on a note of success. When this isn't possible, consider other ways that you can make the end of the assignment feel more pleasurable. For example, find ways to recognize students for effort, improvement, or tenacity. Leave them small notes praising them. Give awards for the exams that show the most improvement, or gold stars for getting a passing score. Something that will be pleasant for them rather than negative. Consider putting a wrapper on complex assignments, papers, projects, and exams that allows students a chance to have a pleasurable experience. This can be a reflection on what they learned, what they think they did well, or how they could adjust the next time to really improve. It can be valuable to collect their feedback on the assignment design, what worked and didn't work, and praise them for insights that they have. All students like to be seen and valued, and that may be remembered more fondly than the difficult part of the assignment. The peak-end rule shows us that memory of how pleasurable or painful an experience was is greatly influenced by how it ends. So, remember to end well. And that's this week's teaching tip, brought to you by the Center for Inclusive Teaching and Learning here at UWSP. Here at CITL, we offer support for course design, learning activities, assessment, and pedagogy. Visit our website to schedule a consultation today.